Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Meet the Author webinar on our very popular cooking series. I'm Elena Massler with the National 4-H Council, and I'll be your moderator today. We have just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. First, the webcast console you are looking at can be completely customized, which means that you can open, close, resize, and move any of the windows you have open. The icons at the bottom of your screen represent various widgets. I'd like to highlight just a few of them. First, the question mark represents the help guide, which covers common technical issues. If you are experiencing any difficulties, try clicking here first. The message icon in the middle of the list opens the group chat box. We recommend the open group chat as it's a great way to communicate with fellow attendees, and it's also where you can ask questions of our presenter today. The piece of paper represents the resource list. There, you'll be able to view and download a copy of this presentation, and there are also links to the 4-H Mall and to upcoming webinar registration. And then lastly, the person icon is for presenter information, which contains Madonna's bio and contact info. We are recording this webinar, and it will be available in approximately 1 day. You can access it using the same link that you used to sign on to today, so feel free to listen again and also to share with your colleagues. Our presenter today is Madonna Weiss. Madonna is an extension specialist for 4-H youth development with the University of Illinois Extension. She has responsibility for curriculum development and the Healthy Living Youth Education Initiative. Madonna, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I am so glad so many of you have joined us this morning to talk about the 4-H Cooking 101 through 401 series. And I'll be introducing that to you and going into some detail about what the different projects offer. So we'll get started. Well, let's just think for a second about why it's important for young people to be learning food preparation skills. You know, when we have so much access to fast foods and companies that deliver food to your door, why are food preparation skills important for today's young people? If you just enter your responses into the chat box. Learning how to prepare a healthy meal so they can cook when they go to college and have families of their own. That would be important. Tracy's saying it's not offered any other place, and many times that's true. High school and middle school home economics programs have been phased out in many schools. Any other ideas on why it's important for young people to learn food preparation skills? Suzanne is reminding us it's healthier for them to cook for themselves and less expensive also. Good point. Well, as ideas come to you, just continue to pop those into the chat box. But we're going to move along here to a poll question that I would like to ask you. This is just to give us a little bit idea of what resources are available for young people in your state. Is your state currently providing food project manuals for club members? If you would just enter your response, no, we don't have those, yes we do, or yes we have them, but they're really out of date. And then hit submit. As you answer your poll, Yvonne is reminding us too that food preparation is a skill that they can use throughout their lives. It's one of those important life skills. Okay, if you're responding to the poll, you need to enter your response into the by clicking one of the choice buttons in this slide. Okay, so we're seeing that the vast majority of you do not have resources provided by your state or identified by your state for you to use. And so this will be a good opportunity to learn about these manuals, which have been very, very popular, not only in Illinois where they were developed, but nationally, have been a very popular and fun project for the kids to do. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about the importance of food preparation skills, and you've identified some of those. I'm going to provide an overview of the 4-H cooking projects, and then we're going to talk about different ways that you can use the project manuals when working with young people. They're really adaptable to a lot of delivery methods. Well, when we're looking at the importance of food preparation skills, that skill development is very important because many times young people aren't learning that either at home or school or through other youth serving organizations. So it is a practical application. We've tried to make this very hands-on, very youth-oriented so that young people want to learn and practice and apply what they were learning. It helps young people make healthy eating choices by providing them with information about MyPlate and making healthy choices, but it also provides them different recipes that have been tested and reviewed by young people, and so they're ones that they find enjoyable and they want to make, so they can fall into that practice of preparing healthy foods and healthy snacks at home and for their families. I think one of the most important important things that this project does is help young people make that connection between their food choices and nutrition. You know, lots of times young people learn nutrition almost in a vacuum. They're not really applying it to the choices they're making. They may be able to tell us about MyPlate and eating vegetables and fruits, and half of their plate being fruits and vegetables, but when they fill their own plate, they're not making that connection between what they learned with MyPlate and what they're actually practicing. So the project really strives to help make that connection. Also, the popularity of food preparation in the media, there are so many of those food contests, food preparation programs, and we really thought that that would die out after a while, but they continue to be popular, and they are especially popular with young people, and they really enjoy that competitive aspect of the food preparation and applying what they've learned. Also, we know that research tells us that eating together with family meals gives young people some resiliency skills that they're going to need in order to be successful and to avoid some of those peer pressure traps that young people fall into. So we've really tried to, throughout the project, is stressing that family meal component. So there are 4 project books that are associated with this series. Cooking 101, where they learn the basics. Then that advances into 201, 301, and 401, which is our most advanced skill level. And so each project builds on the skill level of the one before it. And also then there's a helper's guide that guides the volunteer or staff person as they teach young people about food preparation. Maribel makes a really good point in the chat box. Food also connects cultures. I'm Guatemalan, so I cook Guatemalan food. And in our 401, we really focused a lot on ethnic foods in that project book and learning about different ethnic foods and preparing ethnic foods. So Maribel, that's a wonderful connection that you have, that you could begin teaching young people at an earlier age about your cultural heritage, and then also letting them provide insight into theirs too. So that's a wonderful connection. This series was developed by an experienced team of nutrition and wellness educators who had had over 100 years of experience combined teaching young people about nutrition and food preparation. All of the recipes were tested and analyzed, so number one, the recipes work. We were very conscientious about making sure there weren't any mistakes in them, and we also did a nutritional analysis on each of the recipes that are provided, and those are in the project manuals. It's updated with all the MyPlate references, so it's using the current MyPlate information. The books were peer-reviewed, and it also encourages young people to work with a project helper. So they're learning from another older youth or an adult who can serve as a mentor to them through this project. 4-H Cooking 101 is the beginning skill level. So young people that enroll in this project are learning about those basics information that they need to know in order to begin successfully preparing small meals and snacks, but also beginning to make that connection between healthy choices and what they are preparing and eating on their own. We introduced them to MyPlate and the balanced diet using that plate concept. We teach them about basic food safety and personal hygiene so that they are not spreading germs or making themselves susceptible to food poisoning. They learn how to properly and safely use small appliances, the stove, the oven. One thing we really focus on is helping them to use a knife safely and to use cutting boards, so preventing any potential accidents there. Again, we put a component in there about the family meal and connection, so we're teaching them to set a table and make that attractive so it invites their family to join them at the table. They begin to learn the basic skills of measuring liquid and dry ingredients, how to follow a recipe, the other how-tos on breaking eggs, mixing, creaming, all those basic food preparation skills that they need to know they learn in the 4-H 101 project. They also learn about testing, so that they are doing preparing food, but then evaluating it against a rubric that we've provided that could also be used, if you prefer, in your county if they bring projects to a county exhibit day or project day or at the county fair. there's a evaluation component provided that they can begin to evaluate their own products, but then that could later be used as part of your 4-H program so that they're being evaluated by the same criteria. So that's an overview of 101. If along the way you have any questions or comments or want more information, if you'll just type that into the chat box, Elaine and I will be monitoring that as we go along, and so you don't have to hold all your questions to the end. 4-H Cooking 201 then begins to take the skills that they've learned in 101 and begins to build on those and add to their skill set. We really focus a lot on foodborne illness and how to prevent foodborne illness. We teach them about using food thermometers, when to determine when food is done, especially meats and other proteins that put them at a greater risk for food poisoning. We teach them about food safety with kitchen fires and frozen foods and eggs, so that they're beginning to expand their knowledge of food safety and kitchen safety. We begin to teach them how to read and use a nutrition facts label, so they're beginning to make those connections in their lives about making those healthy choices. And exactly why is it important to eat fruits and vegetables? Why is that important to their health? And understanding some of those basic fundamentals about nutrition and how they can apply it to their own lives. They begin to learn different ways to prepare fruits and vegetables. They are learning to cook them in the microwave, learning to roast them, combining vegetables with whole grains, and looking at how to prepare those grains in different ways. And we've provided some food science experiments where they prepare different types of grains or use different methods for preparing grains, and in doing a testing to see the differences in taste and texture and which one they prefer, but also which one their family prefers, because we want to continue making that connection to the family. We're looking at pastas also in addition to the grains, and beginning to learn how to prepare some simple meat recipes. And one of the things that we do throughout Cooking 201 is we teach them how to make some of those basic sauces, and then using those in different recipes throughout the book. So they're learning various ways to use that same basic sauce recipe, but applying it across a lot of different food types, and how that changes by adding different ingredients to that sauce. So that's kind of a theme throughout this book. And also how to cook with an electric grill. We often call those Foreman grills because those are easy for young people to use, but they also provide a healthy way to eat meats. Joyce is asking about, is this an entire series from 101 through 401? And yes, there is a different manual for each level of the book, and they progress. In 101, we're talking about the skill development, and then each level after that builds on the skills that they've learned throughout the series. And so by the time they complete 401, it is they have a well-balanced and advanced food preparation nutrition skills. The time frame really depends upon how deeply the young people want to go in. If they're using this series as part of their community club project, we really encourage them to spend a couple years on each project level because there's a lot to learn. If you're doing this as part of a short-term special interest club or workshop, you can identify different lessons throughout the book that you want to focus on in any of the skill levels, depending upon the skill level of the young people who are participating. And we're going to talk about the different ways that you can use that a little bit later on in the webinar, so I'll provide more details as we go through that. In 301, we're beginning to get into some of the more advanced skills, really taking a look at, again, a greater in-depth look at food safety, and we're using the FAT-TOM model, which is an acronym that young people learn for them to assess their practices to make sure that they're keeping themselves and their food safe. We know at this age that young people are really becoming very, very socially oriented, and they're wanting to spend more time with their friends and attending parties. And so the 301 manual focuses a lot on party planning. It has foods that are appropriate for parties. We've used different ways that they can prepare foods for the parties. For example, we teach them about grilling. We begin to introduce them to baking, and especially into yeast breads, which can, then can be used in their party planning, but also using the crock pot for food preparation. So they're, I called that by its brand name, the slow cooker. So they're learning lots of different ways that they can prepare food for those social opportunities in their lives. Again, they're also getting information on how to test the recipes that they're preparing and evaluate it against that rubric, but we also begin to provide them some troubleshooting. If your baked product did this, this may be the problem. And so they can refer to that troubleshooting page if things aren't turning out quite the way they want them to. Tracy's asking if the summarized areas of objectives are thoroughly detailed in the book. Yes, at the beginning of each book, we provide a list of a self-evaluation. It's called What Do You Know? And there is a list of all the objectives that we want them to learn as part of the project. And so they rate themselves before. How much do I know about this information right now? And then we ask them to go back and do that after they've completed the project so they can assess how much knowledge and skills that they've gained as a result of doing the project. So, and then the information that we're talking about, for example, party planning or cooking with a slow cooker or cooking with a grill, there is information provided in the manual on those food preparation resources. So they have that information provided to them in the manual. And Elena is posted a link so that you can see some of the sample pages that are mentioned in the project book. 401 is when we really begin to make the connection between food preparation and food science. One of the things that we do is when they're learning how to make a pie. Well, what's the food science behind making a pie? Or if they're making candy, what is the food science behind the crystallization of sugar? and how that determines the type of candy that you are preparing and the level of crystallization of sugar that you need for each candy type. So it's much more focus on that food science. They're learning about herbs and spices and how to use them in their food. Again, with that social component that of being a young person, we've really stepped up their meal planning to include a celebration meal, and that includes all the way from determining the type of food that you want to prepare, setting up a schedule for preparation to make sure everything's done on time, and inviting other people into that process, or inviting other people to the celebration meal. So we begin to really expand that. Also looking at much more deeply into ethnic foods, and that could be the raw ingredients like vegetables and fruits that may be more common to other countries, as well as the actual food that they're preparing, the recipes that are from different cultures and ethnicities and countries. And so it really begins to focus on expanding their experience with other different types of foods, as well as the food preparation experience. They also learn a great deal of food science also behind using eggs as in different food. For example, the food science behind making puddings and custards and sponge cakes and chiffon cakes and angel food cakes. So they learn how to handle the eggs in those different food preparation processes, and learn about the type of product they're going to get depending upon the way that they handle the eggs. So that's, again, really connected to the food science. And they have the evaluation pieces for each of the major areas that they're preparing in the project, and also those troubleshooting guides. We provide a helper's guide that goes along with the project books. And what we've done in the helper's guide is break this down to give a volunteer a guide of how they could plan the food projects, so they could do a series of lessons or a workshop for the young people, so they can know what the objectives are, the content that they need to provide them from the manual that would help support those objectives, and then also the suggested recipes. So it makes kind of a package for each learning activity. They have the objectives, they have the content information, and then the recipe. And then we do that in a series of 6 lessons, so this could easily be done as part of a separate learning experience outside the club. It could be part of a workshop. It could be part of a special interest club. And so it provides that information for all 4 of the levels. So it's easily for a volunteer to pick this up and have the information they need without spending a lot of time trying to determine what information they need for the learning activities and what recipes would apply. So it's kind of a quick go-to guide for the volunteers that may be teaching this. This is an example of the project evaluation sheet for yeast breads, but this is the common evaluation component that we provide throughout the series. So the young people can, as they're preparing foods, they can begin to do evaluation. In this one, we're looking at appearance, texture, the crumb, the flavor, in the bread and also in the yeast rolls. So then if there's a problem, then they go to their troubleshooting page and say, wow, mine didn't quite turn out the way that I wanted it to. So they begin to develop those critical thinking. Okay, what's wrong with my project, and what might the problem be, and then how can I solve the problem that I have? So those are available throughout the project series. Now I'm going to be getting into a little bit more detail about the question that was asked earlier about how can these projects be used. Well, with 4-H community clubs, where kids sign up for a project and they take that project for the year and hopefully do some mastery around the subject matter, as I said earlier, we really encourage young people to spend a year or two in each of the project levels, just because there's a lot of information for them to learn. And because each level builds on the skills that they learned in the project before, we really want them to master those that project information and skills before they move on to the next level. So potentially, a young person could start in a 4-H foods project when they first start in 4-H and take that all the way through in order to complete the 4 levels and spend 2 years in each of the project areas, so they could have their whole 4-H career in building this knowledge and skills around food preparation. And by the time that they've completed all 4 of the projects, they really have mastered a lot of skills and knowledge and understanding and application of nutrition. In 4-H, we do a lot of spin clubs, which are those special interest clubs, where you're bringing together kids around a specific topic. And so any of the 4 project manuals would be excellent for this spin club. Again, if you're starting with young people who don't have much food preparation experience or knowledge, then you want to start with 101. Then as you progress, you may be providing those more advanced workshops or clubs for young people who have been in the project and they've gotten those basic skills, and now you're ready to move them on to the next level. So again, the special interest club or the workshop could progress as you have a group of kids whose skills are progressing. Cooking 101 is especially popular with after-school groups or after-school clubs, where they're coming in as in that school environment, and they're learning about the basics of food preparation and nutrition. And you can do that for, however many sessions that you want to do. We have lots of easy to pull out information for the young people to learn those skills. So you could pull out the pages on how to properly measure dry ingredients and liquid ingredients. You could have that as a learning opportunity. And then there's recipes that the kids can practice those skills. So they're making their party mix or other things that they're measuring out the ingredients, and then they have that as their snack at the end of the learning activity. So 101 is a wonderful resource to use with those after-school groups, and we've found that the kids love them. They come in with lots of energy after school, and they're ready to do hands-on things, and you can get them right into those learning activities, and then they're preparing food, which they're always ready to eat after school. So it's been very successful with those after-school groups. And it can also be used as school enrichment. Again, the project manual is prepared so it's loose leaf to be put in a 3-ring binder so you can pull out lessons or activities that you want young people to focus on. And so you don't have to have, if you're doing those school enrichment projects, you don't have to buy the entire manual. You can, so if you're interested in teaching young people about MyPlate, you can pull those resources out and have just the pages that you need for those young people. Elaine is probably going to growl at me because we don't sell as many books that way, but we really wanted this so it could be easily adaptable and those pages could be turned into handouts for the educator or agent or the volunteer or whoever is working with those young people. So the pages are really easy to pull out and copy as a handout. Also, we've been doing 4-H cooking schools here in Illinois in the summertime and partnering with other community youth serving organizations. So we go in for a week at a time and put on a 5-day, 2-hour cooking camp where they're learning a lot of those basic skills and nutrition information that we teach in 4-H Cooking 101. And that has been extremely popular. Last summer, we had almost 3,000 young people across the state that participated in those camps. And we also had trained teen teachers to come in and help provide that content information and work with the young people in small groups. And that was an extremely successful delivery model for us. So this is wonderfully adapted, especially 101, for those day camps, especially during the summer times. Okay, so Elaine is responding, letting the group know that all the manuals, the pages are loose-leafed and they're shrink-wrapped, so when you open them up, they go into a 3-ring binder. Basically, we wanted to be able to do that so the young people could also, if they're looking at a recipe from the book, it's going to lay flat. They don't have to fight with keeping their project book open. And also that as educators, those pages could be pulled out for lessons for young people around specific topics. We've talked about the workshops and cooking schools that go along with this delivery method, and so you know, there are just many different ways that you can use this project manual, and again, build on the skills that young people have learned in one level and move it on to the next. So, and Elaine is reminding the group too that they also offer the binders to go along with the book so that you can just order those at the same time you order your project manuals, and those all come together and simplify that process of dropping those into the binder and getting them ready for the kids. Also, the 4-H Mall provides a way for you to recognize the young people through their cooking medal, and also they have a new cooking master pin. And I would really encourage you to consider that cooking master cooking master pin for those upper levels of the projects. But boy, when you put those cooking medals on, especially those young kids that are in Cooking 101 and 201, they are so proud of that, and it's just really a wonderful way to recognize them but also encourage them to continue in that process, and they really do feel like that they have mastered those skills. So I would encourage you to look at ordering the pins to go along with your projects that you're working with the young people. So at this time, are there any questions that you have that we haven't answered along the way? We've got about 5 minutes left before we end our webinar, so I'll wait to see if we have any questions that come in.
Hey, Madonna, we had a question that came in earlier that I think got lost in the shuffle, so I'll just read it to you. It's from Yvonne, and she asks, can this curriculum be utilized by club members with learning disabilities, or is it easily adaptable for that audience?
Yes, because we use a lot of graphics, and so where the kids are looking and seeing how things are done, as well as providing the text. You know, with special needs, young people, there are obviously some kitchen safety things that we would need to be aware of, especially when you're using like knives and small appliances, so they're going to need that extra attention. But I think this is, especially in 101, that this is something that would be very adaptable to using with young people with special needs.
Okay, and I'll just chime in here. This is Elena again. In terms of how the curriculum is offered, so we actually do really like the loose leaf format for this because it just makes it so much easier to pull out a recipe or pull out a page, and we have the option to purchase them with or without the binders. We don't currently offer tabs. There's a question in the chat about that, but this applies to every piece of curriculum we have. If any of you facilitators or educators have any suggestions or have ideas on what could be easier for you, please let us know at the 4-H Mall. We're happy to help you out there. And then also, while we're waiting for more questions, I'll just make another plug for the sale in April that we have. So we offer 25% off all curriculum during the month of April. So if you're interested in this series or anything else, then go ahead and start planning your order now to get that discount.
So Maribel, I'm assuming when you say for clovers, you mean the younger kids, the 5 to 7-year-old clover bud age? Yes, some things that you would need to adapt for the clover bud at age. For example, if you're going to be cutting things, rather than using a paring knife, there are those safety knives that you can use. There frequently you'll find them on sale at stores that provide cooking utensils, and those are, I would really encourage to use those with those clover bud aged young people. And then also, if you're going to be using any appliances like even a microwave or an oven, those might be things that you want the adult to be closely supervising, but teaching them those safety rules that go along with those would be especially important for those young people. Tracy is asking the question and saying, when delivering to after-school programs, it seems there would be equipment that needs to be included, utensils, bowls, etc. How do you start? Is there a list of recommended equipment needed? What we have done here in Illinois is prepare kits where you would put it in one of the large plastic totes. I think those are 66-gallon, if I remember correctly, and you can pack, your those plastic cutting boards and bowls and measuring cups and spoons and knives and everything, and pack it into there, and you just pick up and go whenever you're doing some of those beginning 101 activities with the kids. And then as part of the process, I always have the kids learn how to clean up. And so they clean up their work area, they do the dishes, they dry the dishes, and we repack them right back into those kits. If you would contact me, I will be glad to share that list of our kits that we've prepared, so you don't have to reinvent the list of around what you'll need for Cooking 101. And many of the things that could be used with the other levels, because everybody uses those same basic things, but some of the more specialized things like in 201 where they're starting to learn the electric grills and stuff, we don't provide those in the kits. So that might be something if you're doing those more advanced projects, you would need maybe to purchase some of those small appliances in addition to what's in your kit. But I'll be glad to share that information. If you people are asking for the list, you should be able to see on my screen right now my email address. If you'll just shoot me off an email, I'll be glad to send that supply list along to you for our beginning level cooking kits. And those are just so easy to pack up and grab on your way out the door. And then, like I said, the kids clean them up and you just pack everything back in there. So it's very helpful. Any other questions? I appreciate your positive comments about the webinar, but also the project. I tell you, this has been an extremely popular project here in Illinois, but from my conversations with Elena, I think especially 4-H Cooking 101 has been, well, I know it's been one of their top 10 bestsellers, but the other levels of the project are very popular too, so I don't think you'll be disappointed with the project. It has been well tested, and I think you'll find it to be very helpful. So, Elena, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much, Madonna, and thank you, everyone, for your participation. It's really great to see a lot of engagement and questions and interest. And I'll echo what Madonna said. This has been incredibly popular on a national level. We see orders for it all the time. We see many states, many different types of environments using the curriculum. So we hope that it works for your situation as well. And please don't hesitate to contact Madonna or myself with questions at any time. So with that,
okay,
I will just, go ahead.
I just got my first email of somebody wanting the list, so they're coming right on it, so that's great.
Excellent. So I will just end with a promo for our upcoming webinars. So I've seen some familiar names on here already. This is our second week of Meet the Author webinars, and we'll be running webinars through March 22nd, so that we hope you're able to join us just to learn about all the different things that we offer at the national level. And I would like to note that if you do miss a webinar or if you're unable to make a date, they are all recorded. So just go ahead and register just as if you'd be able to attend live and to be able to watch a recording after the fact. And so with that, that brings us to the end. And again, I'd just like to thank Madonna for sharing her time and expertise. And I hope the rest of you, everybody has a great day. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.